welcome. I am going to share my screen with you and we will use the social media instructions as an agenda. And this document, as you all know, is what it's where we keep all of the moving parts of the role. We catalog all of the tasks that you accomplish, a lot of the spreadsheets, a lot of the links to the important links that you need. So I'm going to walk through the outline that you see here on the left-hand side as our agenda for this lecture. So first of all, just general overview of our social media. We use those platforms to keep our audience engaged while we're doing all the editorial work for the magazine. So through this online presence, we'd like to engage with other writers, readers, and artists. And as you know, we have a reputation for being uplifting and bringing a lot of information about contributor updates and really what our peer group are doing. So what our other literary magazines are doing. And we are actively working on 8 networks: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Goodreads, and Tumblr. As active as as Tumblr is, it looks pretty. So it's really just an archive because there isn't really much interaction there. But we have a link to a spreadsheet that will give you all the login information that you need. And we also, on that sheet, like to keep track of our number of followers. You can see we've been doing this since 2013, where we went from a total audience of about 5,000 to most recently about 44. And that's including our newsletter subscribers, magazine users, YouTube subscribers, that kind of thing. So Charlie had the joy and accomplishment of bringing us over 10K on Twitter, which we're very pleased about. So our goal is always to kind of grow those networks and extend our reach. So we have a list of tasks, and we composed these to be easily transferred to a LinkedIn page or a resume. So some of these tasks are written as skills that you can discuss on your resume, in your LinkedIn, or in a job interview. But generally, the work that you're going to do before you get into the role is to look at some tutorials on how to run all of these social media stations, study the social media pages of other literary magazines and kind of see what our peer group is doing, research current trends. Once you're in the role, which is going to start the second week of January, you'll do daily live work. We kind of call this goodwill work. So that means you'll like, share, and comment on other posts and follow other literary magazines and authors and things like that. And I always say set a timer because it can be a deep dive. Set a timer and maybe do 20 minutes of yay, 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 and then move on. So you'll also curate content, create graphics, follow along on the blog, because that can make really good content on social media. Our blog does push to Facebook, Twitter, and my personal LinkedIn account. But you can share it on other networks as well, the content from the blog. We promote upcoming events, guest lectures, schedule and post ad exchanges, promote the issue. You'll also be expected to update the social media content calendar. We have a content calendar that we purchased that has ideas for content to publish. And this is something that can be useful if you're trying to create a habit of posting regularly. So my partner just got home. Just making sure it's him. Okay. So does that pretty much cover it? all of the tasks? Is that pretty comprehensive? Okay, great. So next we'll talk about important pages that you'll want to have open when we do our meetings. So Kate and Angelique, we are scheduled to have our meetings for 7 weeks, starting on the 13th. Those will be at 1:30 on Thursdays. And just like this semester, I'm going to have 7 of them scheduled. And then at the end of the semester, it'll be on a drop-in basis. So whenever you need me, you just holler. And you will have access to me through email and text as well. So if you need anything at all, you can just get me that way. Next, I just want to say a word about our audience. This was a project in the training class where you looked at these 15 categories of SR readers. And I think that studying this and thinking about it can be helpful to know what kind of content is appropriate and what our readers want to see. So that's left there as a reference for you. And on Twitter, we even keep these as lists. So we have, for instance, a list of art galleries that we follow. It has 46 people that we follow. So that's another way that you can get content too, is by looking at these lists and see what our audience really cares about. The next section is about curating content, and I'm going to let Angelique and Charlie run this because you've got the on-the-ground experience. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you found the content that you shared?
I can go ahead and start. Most of what I did, I focused mostly on the Twitter. So we already had a lot of people that we were following, so it wasn't super hard to find content to like interact with. Just when you follow 6,000 people, it makes it pretty easy. But then in order to find like new content, I talked about it a little bit in the Twitter section, but there was the tab on the side that said like who to follow and things like that. So I would use that like to show more and then just see like especially literary magazines. Just go ahead and drop follows to the ones that I thought were relevant to Superstition Review. And then when you click on them and when you follow them, they also give you more Twitter users that are like them. And so it was just like an endless loop of just like going and checking out different literary magazines. And then also sometimes, not as much on this account as others, but the trends on the side and the what's happening tab will sometimes be literary related. So I'd go ahead and check those out on like the For You page, For You little section, but a lot of the times they're political, so I didn't get as much help there. But that was mostly what I did.
Okay, great, thank you. And Angelique, do you want to talk about curating content or finding content?
Yeah, so Feedly is also a great place for finding content. It's really well organized and user friendly. It separates all of the different content into our different audiences, and just shows you articles that are relevant to those 15 audiences that we just covered. Mm-hmm. And I definitely think it's a great source for content. I found myself using Twitter a lot more this semester, but I definitely want to use Feedly a lot more next semester.
Excellent. Yeah, one of the things I love about Feedly, Kate, have you ever seen it? So it's just a blog aggregator. It allows you to follow blog posts for as many blogs as you want. And so we've worked on this. It has our categories of artists, arts organizations, etc. And you can break it down. But it's a really fun way to see what other literary magazines are doing and kind of the fun that they're having. Like, I don't know if you heard about this Taylor Swift books thing that's going on. People are matching their books to Taylor Swift songs, things like that. It's a great place to get ideas about what's happening. And you can even share straight from it. So if you're working a network that allows you to share from here, that can be a lot of fun. They want you to pay for whatever I just clicked on, but okay, wonderful. So those are excellent ways to curate content. But really Kate and Angelique, we'll work on who's working which networks when we meet in spring. Think about what you want to do, because you'll be working 4 networks at a time. And so it's interesting to watch how each of the individual networks are different. The next area is SRG Mail. Kate, you're very familiar with this. You'll just be working in a different box. So as you know, you've been in the Ad Exchange folder, and we have a social media folder as well. And so what you're going to see here is all of the Ad Exchange requests that have been processed. Same structure though, you'll be communicating with editors, artists, authors on the other side of the Ad Exchange. And there's a section here about how to process those Ad Exchanges once they come in. Charlie, you want to say a few words about this?
Yeah, so since you're already like familiar with the email, there's not too much that I need to say. I did include like a little format, I guess, of what I usually send them, just like a greeting, like thank you for the opportunity, or thank you, nice to meet you. I mean, then communicate the details, like we will have this posted on these networks at this time. And then if there's anything that might change that, be like, there might be a 1 or 2 day delay, just be very upfront with like what you're telling them, and then be sure to thank them for the opportunity, and then ask if there's anything else that you need, and then just remain like cordial and kind. And I know I struggled with it a lot this semester, so I'm very thankful that you all were very patient with me. But the most important part is just communicating with the other like the advertising coordinator and then the other social media team members, just making sure that the gears are running smoothly.
Good. And remember, there are no emergencies. So it's, and the job is meant to be fun. Angelique? Do you want to say anything about Ad Exchanges?
Yeah, I mean, just going off of that, just being really communicative, and as long as you're communicating, it'll all be okay. Like, everyone's really understanding, and as long as you're emailing that other magazine, they totally understand, because they also have a lot going on too. So
Yes.
they're not gonna be mad at you as long as you let them know what's going on.
Right. Okay, good. Okay, now we have kind of a breakdown of the networks. So we're going to start with Instagram. And Angelique, we have a discussion of this. I'm not going to read it to you. You'll be able to read this afterwards, Kate. But Angelique, do you want to talk a little bit about how it was running the Instagram?
Yeah, so the goal is to post 7 times a week, or just once a day, basically. That's the goal. And then just to create a consistent stream of content for readers. Creating graphics is a big part of Instagram, and I was using Canva. So, because Instagram's all about the feed, so just creating graphics that are nice and pretty and colorful that draw people's attention. Um, and then stories, I would just repost posts on the stories, but I didn't really use stories as like serious posting. I would just do regular posts for like anything that I wanted to share and then just repost things on the stories. But if you ever go to an event, stories is a good thing to use, like just posting events on there and then putting it in the highlights so people can always see them. But most stories, unless you archive them, are going to disappear after 24 hours. So I don't really use it too much. But there's a lot of like features you can use on stories, like polls or like countdowns or stuff like that. So just anything you can use to interact more with the audience is a good idea. And using hashtags too in the comments. I try not to put it in the caption because I don't want the caption to look too cluttered. So I would put them in the comments. I think they're a good, useful tool. People definitely still use them. So if they're ever just looking for like a literary magazine to use or to look at, they can just go under that hashtag and they'll see our posts. And then also with like links on Instagram, it's not like super user friendly. So I put a little thing in there about links. For ad exchanges, I just put them in the caption. Like I think that's fine, but you can also put a link in our bio, like temporarily, like to our YouTube channel or like blog if you're promoting our blog or something. So people can just click directly on there. But it is kind of weird that like you can't click on links on Instagram, but that's just how it is. So yeah, and then posting ad exchanges and tagging the literary magazine, tagging them in the post and then adding them in the caption as well, so people know to go follow that literary magazine. Just promoting our partners basically. Live work is really important on Instagram too, because you're showing other magazines that you are invested in what they're doing and what they're posting. And then in turn, they'll look at your stuff more too. So yeah, I try to do live work like 15, 20 minutes a day, or like 30 minutes.
Yeah, even sitting at the, in the waiting room, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to do. Okay, excellent. And I think what I'm going to do, so that we don't go over our time, is Charlie, why don't you talk about Twitter, and then Kate, I'll let you look at the sheet to study the smaller networks on your own. So let's talk about Twitter.
All right, so Twitter is definitely something you want to invest a lot of time in, just because you've got the most followers there. So definitely important to upkeep that. And then sorry, I'm thinking. Twitter isn't too bad because you get the posts that are sent automatically from the blog, and I think the times are like 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. And so when you schedule or post things, it's important to be wary of those times and when those blogs are coming in, so you're not putting all the stuff on at the same time. But one of the best features about Twitter is that it lets you schedule posts without having to pay for any third-party thing. You just get to schedule the posts. And so to do that, you just hit tweet, and then it's the last little option right there. And then you can schedule it for the date and the time. And then if you can also see what other tweets are already scheduled. So this is really helpful with like ad exchanges, because anyone else on the social media team, if they have access to the Twitter, can see like when it's scheduled on there and like coordinate, or also like it's just helpful to make sure you don't forget, because that's a representation of like superstition review beyond just our own content. And so scheduling is definitely one of the best features. But otherwise, I think I already talked about it a little bit, but just keeping up with the trends, like trending hashtags, and then checking like suggestions for who to follow. Those sorts of things are important. And then it's pretty intuitive. Just go through and like things, just make sure, because Twitter is where a lot of people get very personal and very political as well.
That's true.
Just be careful what you're interacting with. Just, yeah.
I have a question for you. Can you talk about how you used mentions and how you replied to people in mentions?
Yeah, so most of the time, I usually just liked things that we were mentioned in, since a lot of the communication was done through the email.
Right.
But sometimes, like if we got mentioned in a Follow Friday, I would retweet that, just because it not only, adds to that community, but it also helps to boost a bunch of other magazines as well, because it's in a big list. We haven't been mentioned in a Follow Friday in a while though, unfortunately, but it's okay. And then just making sure like it should show up when people reply to you in the mentions tab as well. So just making sure you're liking those posts. And then if anyone asks a question, making sure you respond to it. And then sometimes like if we had certain things, like I know I retweet a lot of Trisha's posts. I don't know why the retweets aren't showing up, because I know I've retweeted some of these, but just like retweet things that are relevant and are interesting and might come from another source. I didn't retweet too many of the ad exchanges just because that's a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. But yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So we have similar discussion of how to do Pinterest, Goodreads, and LinkedIn, but we'll go through those more thoroughly because those are our smaller networks. I'll show you just real quick. Our Goodreads we use as just shelves. So we collect information about the books that our contributors have published. Our LinkedIn has, let's see, 419 followers, which isn't too bad, but essentially anything that goes on to the blog is published here. Or no, you know what? It goes straight to my personal LinkedIn. And I have like 6,000 connections. So it's kind of better that it goes to my personal one, but it is nice to have some posts here so that we are clearly active. On Pinterest, we use the boards as an archive. And so we're not necessarily doing the same kind of live work. And we also have some great boards for contests. So for instance, this semester we ran a workspace photo contest, which is one of my favorites because a lot of times we get animals, which how can you complain about that? So Tumblr, like I said, it's lonely over there. It's crickets. People aren't really using it. We have 626 followers. It's nice to have it as an archive though, because it automatically publishes what comes off the blog. Our YouTube channel is, I'm very happy and pleased with this. We've been getting more subscribers, more views. We ran a guest lecture series and some of those authors have shared their lectures with others. So that's been going well too. The last thing that we want to talk about is Canva. And Kate, have you been using Canva too?
Yeah, I used Canva to design the graphics for the newsletter.
Okay, that's right. That's right. So you're familiar with it. Angelique, do you want to talk a little bit about your philosophy with Canva?
Yeah, so they have templates that you can use, or you can just like create your own graphic from scratch. I usually go through like templates and just look at ones that I like that fit our feed. But for like the Meet the staff posts. I kind of just use like a solid
Hmm.
background and some text because it didn't have to be anything super catchy. It already had a picture on it, so I kept it pretty simple.
Right.
And Canva, you can definitely experiment on there. I'm definitely going to try to experiment a lot more on there.
Fun.
There's also like a pro version that you can get, which I like have like a free trial, but I don't think I'm gonna pay for it
Mhm.
because I think the free version is still really nice, honestly.
Okay, great. And you can see by looking at, especially the Instagram page as an archive, because you have to have a picture, right? So you'll get a good understanding of what types of looks fit by just looking at the Instagram page itself. Charlie, do you have anything you want to say about using Canva?
Not that wasn't already said.
Okay, awesome. Well, then I'm going to stop the recording. I think we've covered the position.